Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the singers, singers only. Singers only.
Hey you guys, it's Kristal Cherelle from Indie Artist School. Welcome to the Singer's Arsenal. Today we're going to talk about how to belt high notes. It's this thing that seems so magical when you hear it that makes you think, I want to do that too. Well, if you're like I was when I first started singing, it can be one of those things you think you're either born with or not. It seems like some people are just naturally loud and some people are a little bit more quiet. But I'm here to tell you that no matter what kind of way you speak normally or what you think your voice is able to do, that you can actually learn how to belt. But before we get into that, I think it's very important that we talk about what belting actually is. Belting is really singing in your head voice with the power of your chest voice. And there's this area in between your chest voice and your head voice called the mixed register. Now, the mixed register is the part of your voice where if you were to yell, your voice would normally crack at that point. So most people don't ever speak in this tone. It's a little bit too high for them to speak. There's some things that you can do to help you figure out which register you're actually speaking in or singing in. So what I want you to do is put your hand on your chest right now, just like this. And then what I want you to do is just talk. And as you're talking, you're going to notice that there's a little bit of a vibration coming from your chest. Do you feel that? And if you were to speak even higher, up here, that vibration is gone. It's no longer in your chest voice. Now, where I just was in my head voice. There's a little bit more of a buzzing that I feel behind my nose and these bones in your face. You're going to feel a little bit of a vibration there. That's how you know that you're actually in your head voice. Now, the mixed register is really when your voice is trying to transition between your chest and your head voice. Mixed register can be really difficult for most people to master because it's normally where their voice cracks. And sometimes there's a challenge to try to sing in your chest voice at that note when it's actually going to cause you to strain. Or you might completely flip your voice and go into falsetto or head voice right at that point. But what you can do to help eliminate that problem is by learning these 3 simple steps. Okay. Now, we're here to talk about belting, all right? We're not talking about just the fundamentals of singing. We're talking about how to belt those big notes. So let's talk about that. The very first thing that you need to do to be able to belt notes is to be able to build your vocal strength. Now, when we talk about power in your voice, there's a few things that we need to think about. A lot of times we associate power with volume. And while that's true, there's also stamina. So if you get winded or get tired or something like that, learning how to belt can be very exhausting if you don't build up your vocal stamina, which is also related to your vocal strength. Ways that you can build up your vocal strength is by doing vocal exercises and vocal warm-ups every single day. You're going to learn how to breathe. You're going to learn how to project your voice from your diaphragm and find correct vocal placement. This is something that I teach all of my students in their private lessons. Now, they are going to be catered towards each voice type of each of my students and their own vocal needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but those are the 3 things that every single student will learn when they have private lessons with me. Now, if you're interested in learning how to get private vocal lessons, go ahead and visit calendly.com. That's calendly.com/Indie Artist School. That's calendly.com/Indie Artist School. Okay, so that's if you want voice lessons so that you can help build your vocal strength. But let's say that you've been taking lessons. The second thing that you need to learn how to do is learn how to support your notes. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with learning the correct vocal technique on how to sing. But to support your notes, you really need to learn how to isolate and engage your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is actually right by where your stomach is. So most people, when they sing, they raise their chest up to breathe in and it collapses down along with their shoulders as they project. But what you're going to do is learn how to project outwards. So your stomach's actually going to go out. Now, there's a term for this that you might hear if you Google. It's called the point of apogeo. All that means is relying on your breath support instead of your chest and your shoulders to project notes. Now, this does take training, and I do teach my students several vocal exercises and breathing exercises that help engage their diaphragm. I'll tell you one right now. It's called the sprinkler, and I like to call it the sprinkler. So basically what you're going to do is some pulsating hisses. So if you were to pretend you were going to laugh like, ha, ha, ha. Now you'll notice I'm breathing in from my diaphragm and my belly's going to go out. And yours is too when you go, ha, ha. Now, there's a lot going on. You'll notice some subtle changes, but all in all, your shoulders and your chest are neutral and your stomach's actually going to go out. Ha! Now, the top part's going to go down a little bit, but the bottom part of your stomach is going to go outwards. This is going to take some practice to get used to, but that's how you start engaging your diaphragm. Okay, now that you've learned how to engage your diaphragm, it's time to put it to work. So what you're going to do is breathe in for 2 counts, followed by hissing in pulses for 8 counts, and then a long hiss for 8. I'm going to do it with you. So we're going to set our metronome to 100 beats per minute. 1, 2. All right, now your turn. 1, 2, breathe in, 2, pulse out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, hiss out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good job. So now what we're going to do is increase the time to 12 counts. Everything else stays the same. Ready, go. Breathe in, 2, hiss out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, hiss out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And last but not least, let's change it to 16 counts. 1, 2, breathe in, 2, pulse out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Maybe you found that easy, or maybe you found it a bit challenging. But either way, this is something you can start implementing every day to help improve your breath capacity. You can even change the speed of the tempo so that it will be easier for you, or you could slow it down so that you can increase how long you're actually hissing in the long run. This is really good for increasing your strength of your diaphragm as well as how long you can hold notes. There's another step that's very important, and that's called vocal placement. So having the correct vocal placement is really, really important for you to learn how to belt high notes. Why? It's because your notes are based on your vocal registers. Everybody's voice is different. Everybody has different places where their voice wants to change. So if you were to just sing a regular scale from the lowest note of your range all the way to the highest, you might notice there's a little bit of tension as you approach those higher notes. Chances are you are trying to push your chest voice all the way up into those higher notes. So your voice might start cracking or start sounding really airy all of a sudden, meaning you're shifting really quickly into falsetto or head voice, instead of really engaging and gradually changing your vocal placement so that you can move smoothly between all of your registers. Now you can manipulate this a little bit so that you can have a more brassy sounding mixed register. So this is our goal. We want to make those mid-range notes sound very prominent and loud like they would in our lower registers, and also as full as they can, even when they're high in your head voice. So the one way you can do that is by learning the correct vocal exercises to really strengthen your mixed register. So I have a few that I really like to do with my students. But before we get into that, I want to invite you to support this podcast by donating a monthly subscription of anywhere between $1 a month or $10 a month. I really want to continue this podcast, and it does take time and resources that I'm paying for. So your help would be greatly appreciated. And the way that you can help is by visiting anchor.fm/thesingersarsenal/support. That's anchor.fm/thesingersarsenal/support. Okay, let's get into this last important step, vocal placement. Okay, so the first exercise that I like to do with my students who are learning how to belt is what I like to call the ba exercise. And this one is really good for you to do right when your voice wants to crack, going from your chest to your mixed register. You want to start it right at that note, okay? And so as you're going through this, I want you to do this on an arpeggio. An arpeggio is the first, third, fifth, and octave note of a scale. So here's an example of an arpeggio scale. That's an arpeggio scale. Okay, so now that we've established what an arpeggio is, we're going to go ahead and do the ba exercise. Now, there's two things I really want you to keep in mind as you do this. One, make sure that you're breathing in and projecting from your diaphragm. Two, you want to make sure that you're not straining through your throat or your chest or shoulders. So it's really helpful if you do this in front of a mirror. I'm just going to give you an example of it so you can at least know what it is and see if you have any tendencies that are getting in the way of you singing this clearly. Ba, 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 ba. And as you do that, you want to make sure that you're pushing your stomach out the whole time. Ba, 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 ba. So as you get that high note, that you're starting to get into a really strong mixed belt. And then after that, you could do a neigh. A neigh is a really good sound because it really gets it more brassy, more full. And you want to do this on a regular major scale. Please note that the following exercise is not for every voice type. This is mostly for mezzo-sopranos and sopranos, as well as altos with a wide vocal range. However, if you feel yourself straining, please stop. Vocalists who have a lower voice range can sing the same scale an octave lower. Okay, before we begin this neigh exercise, I want you to be really aware of your diaphragm and the pressure that's building as you project. We're going to do this slowly. You need to take your time and make sure that you're taking full breaths and using all of your air in between the phrase. Here we go. Ready? Breathe. Neigh, 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 neigh. Your turn. Now, as you notice, there's a little bit of things going on here. Not a little bit, a lot. There are things going on with the shape of your mouth when you change these sounds, and also you're learning to engage your diaphragm during the length of these notes, and you could shorten this exercise or speed it up. So remember, step number 1, increase your vocal strength by doing regular vocal exercises with a vocal coach so that you can do it properly. Step number 2, support your notes. Make sure that you're engaging your diaphragm and projecting from your diaphragm for the length of time that you need to hold that note. Step number 3, make sure that you have the correct vocal placement for that note so that you're not straining and that it sounds clear and open. Now you can increase how loud your volume is by projecting your diaphragm out with more force to get a stronger belt. And also you can sustain that belt by keeping it out the whole time until it slowly comes back in. And for some people, it's gonna feel a little bit like holding your breath. And so what I like to do with my students is start them out by making sure that they can breathe in from their diaphragm, and also making sure that they know how to hold their breath for longer periods of time as well as project. What the holding of the breath does is it helps you be able to take in more air over time, and it also expands your lung capacity. So I don't know if you've ever watched a deep diver. They're very trained. You wonder how they hold their breath, but have you ever heard them take a breath in? They can carry so much more air. And when you carry much more air, then you can project for even longer. If you want to learn more things like this, go ahead and visit my website, indie-artist.com. indie-artist.teachable.com. That's indie-artist.teachable.com. All right, you guys. Well, until next time, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a singer's